Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, when people are considering selling a home, how do they find out what the costs are for selling a house? And more importantly, how much will they keep when they sell it?
Well, a lot of people aren't really familiar with the typical closing cost. I think they know there's a commission. Many of my sellers are kind of surprised if they have an HOA, they have to pay an HOA transfer fee, or when the buyer asks for the seller to pay their loan closing cost. And now more and more often when the buyer's asking for the seller to pay their buyer agent fees. We're getting pushback on that on the seller side quite a bit. But there are some other costs that you may not know about, which include getting the house ready for sale. I just sold a home recently where we started early. He wanted me to help him prepare, and he hadn't done a lot of detail maintenance on the home for a while. So we did the pre-inspection, and at the end of the day, he made it absolutely perfect. He said he spent about $30,000 just getting the home in good condition. Yet on the other side of that, if you go under contract and then you let the buyer do the inspection, the buyer, I've had deals fall out on the same property multiple times. New buyer gets a new inspection and they ask for completely new stuff. I had one where the buyer was asking for concrete, where the concrete looked really fine. It was just, a 30-year-old home is going to have cracks, of course, here and there, but nothing major, nothing structural. So you never know what their hot button is. And that's the time when it's no fun for sellers, because it's like, I accepted a contract. I agreed to pay some of your closing costs. And now you want what? You want this, you want that, and that's going to cost me. Sewer lines are a big frustration for home sellers, because if the sewer line works and there's no backup, most people don't check it. I had one recently where when you check the sewer line, there was a little fracture. It was probably built that way in the actual pipe, and nobody ever checked it. And the problem is it's going to be probably $10,000 to fix it. And oh, by the way, also you got to remove a giant blue spruce above the line in order to get the work done. Right. So that changes the look and feel of the house. I mean, those are the kind of things that sellers don't like finding out about, especially when they think their home is soon to be sold, they're under contract, things are going well, and then, oh, we need that. And then if the buyer is not satisfied with your approach to what is going to be fixed, they can walk away. Buyers can walk away if they don't like the paint color. It's ridiculous. So there's a lot of typical selling expenses that we see: commission, settling up property taxes, title insurance, buyer related fees, which absolutely are negotiable, including the commission. And but there's some other costs like getting the house ready for sale or unexpected repairs. And sometimes you just don't know what those are. I had one where they had this really weird plumbing problem. It was like a leak in the unfinished basement in the pipe near the concrete. It's just bizarre. So it's always a good idea, if you have time, to talk to us. We usually recommend that you do what's we call a pre-certified pre-owned home. They do that for cars. If you go buy a used car, they'll advertise it's pre-certified, pre-inspected, ready to go, which sounds good. And that sounds good for buyers as well, because buyers are super picky now. They want everything they can get. I mean, and some of them have somewhat unrealistic expectations about what they're going to get, right? They want upgrades, they want this and that. So it really depends on what the buyer agent is doing to manage expectations. I had a contract a couple years back where, I don't know why, but this agent went and got a bid to replace the roof, and the roof had a solar panel on it. So those are very expensive, because you not only have to replace the shingles, but you have to pull the solar off and then you have to put it back on. So it almost doubles the cost. But she got a pretty good price. She goes, see, don't I have a good price to replace the roof? The roof needs to be replaced. So the seller explored it, and turned out, they filed a claim, and the insurance company came out and said, there's nothing wrong with the roof. We don't need to replace the roof. The problem is that hurts your insurance rates right then and right there, right? Because you filed a claim. It doesn't matter if you go through with the claim, they keep a record on that, and it does affect your rates down the road. So we confirmed it with another roofer, and he's like, yeah, the roof's fine. It doesn't need to be replaced. But the buyer walked away because the agent managed expectations to make the buyer think that they needed a roof and they weren't going to get a new roof, right? So we see that kind of stuff happen all the time because agents, buyers agents in particular, think that getting stuff from my buyers is their job. It's not their job. It's getting them the house. It's okay to ask for broken stuff, but reasonable buyers are like, oh, I'm not too worried about that. I can fix that. Or it's not a deal breaker. It might just be routine maintenance. It's also critical that you price it right. I will tell you, if your home is priced what I call very, very, very realistically, and the buyer gets a contract on it, especially if you have a bidding war, all sins are forgiven as far as the condition of the house. A lot of times they will let things slide. And that pricing is so important. If you price too high, it's going to sit on the market. The buyers are going to see the days on market. According to the national statistics, if you price high and slowly walk the price down, you're going to net less money. It's more of an instant society. I mean, have you noticed that, Richard? Like everybody wants everything yesterday.
Absolutely. It is instant gratification. And people used to complain that it was only young people who did that. I honestly see
No,
that every age group and every category is pretty much the same thing. We've been conditioned to do it. You want something,
right.
order it from Amazon, it'll be here tomorrow.
Exactly. That's true. I mean, I ordered a wallet on Amazon like 10:30 at night, not thinking much of it. It was on my doorstep at 8 in the morning. I was like, wow, how did that happen? So yeah, it doesn't necessarily work that way with home sales, but it can happen very quickly if you price it right. And you cannot rely on those automated valuations like the Zillow's estimate or realtor.com's multiple automation valuation models, because you don't know what they're based on. And they're not buying your house. That's the problem. It's the buyers. And you can tell the moment it goes on the market because the buyers start calling, they want to get in, they ask questions. Agents are calling, well, I'm ready to show it. I want more information. Tell me about that house, that kind of thing. I just had one where we had it under contract. The buyer walked away. It was a condo problem. So seller made a huge price adjustment and the phone just blew up. And people are asking me, well, why did you do that? And I said, I can tell you why the last one blew up, but I'm not sure it's accurate. And, it went right under contract with multiple offers right away. So pricing really does overcome everything. And if you have minor work that needs to be done, as long as you price it right, it will sell. I sell homes all the time. Some of them are a disaster. I just put one under contract today that literally has visible mold in the whole lower level. I mean, it's a mess. It's going to be a rehab project, but that one had a bidding war and sold for over asking price because it was priced right. Other costs that you have to consider are your mortgage balance. Obviously, you got to pay off your mortgage, right? But in general, if you want to do the math quickly in your head, you got to plan on 8 to 10% of the sales price to get it sold, right? And that would include commission, taxes, title, buyer closing cost, all the crazy things that happen, and paying off your mortgage. So that's the quick math to figure it out. But I've seen big requests for buyers asking for big dollar amounts in closing cost. And you can play that game. There's nothing that says this. It has to be a seller expense, though. You can go up in price to cover that as long as you could substantiate that other similar homes have sold for that much if you need an appraisal, if you need a third party giving an opinion of value on that transaction. It's not necessary for cash deals, but it is for finance deals. So you can let the buyer finance the cost of their closing cost into their loan and not be out of pocket for the seller. So if you're thinking of making a move, we do this all the time for sellers. We'll sit down, we'll give them tips on what to do, what not to do to get their house ready for sale. Give them a really good idea what their home will sell for, and more importantly, how much they'll put in their pocket when it sells. Just call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Remember, you can listen to replays of the show anytime on all of the major podcast platforms, plus Barb's website, barbhasthebuyers.com. Look for Barb Schlinker online. You'll find her almost anywhere. And if you're thinking of making the move, simply call the number 719-301-3900. Barb, what if a home seller does not have enough money and equity to pay all of those closing costs?
Well, I mean, there are some solutions in general, but it's a tough situation. And I think since the Fed raised the rates the middle of 2022, the people that bought during the peak, especially if they didn't put a down payment down, they got a problem. And so you could rent it, you could keep it and rent it and wait and hope and pray for the market to go up. You can sell it as a short sale, meaning you're asking the seller, the lender, to accept less for the payoff of their mortgage. And for veterans, you don't have to miss a payment to do that. You don't have to drop a bomb on your credit. Especially if you're active duty. I see way too many foreclosures. If you are a veteran and you have a decent interest rate, a VA assumption is a way to get top dollar without a doubt, because if you got a low rate, the buyers are like, that's awesome, I can walk right into a low payment. But at the end of the day, it's all about pricing. So we have solutions, and to call us, just give us a call. We can help you figure those things out. You can sell it for a loss. I've had people do that. I had one a couple of years ago that I said, you're probably going to only net, well, you have to bring some money to closing. But for them, they were like, it's fine, we can do that. We're happy to pay to get rid of the problem, get out of the trap. It's the worst case to let it go to foreclosure. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what to do. I see a majority of the people facing foreclosure just literally move out, stick their head in the sand, or do nothing. And that's not the best scenario for them. There are other options to solve the problem. And what's going on right now, it's almost like history repeats itself. Back between 2007 and 2011, a lot of the banks are saying, oh, don't worry, we'll modify your loan. All you have to do is make a higher payment every month to catch up on the difference. Let me apply, but don't make your payment right now. Don't worry about it. Don't make your payment. And then all of a sudden, if you miss one payment, boom, they filed for foreclosure. So don't trust the banks. Don't be led into their statements that they make. I have one client that told me that her bank, a big major bank, told her because she has equity in her home, she doesn't have to make payments. I'm like, what? Somebody said that to you? Or maybe she just heard what she wanted to hear. I don't know. But at the end of the day, you want to get a trusted advisor to help you out of the problem. We help people with this all the time. We have lots of folks that have that issue. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com, and we'd be happy to help you. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker on Your Real Estate Voice. She should be your voice. And if you're thinking of selling your home and want to have Barb get you the most amount of money, the number is 719-301-3900 or barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to price a home to sell in this market. Plus, Barb's hot new listings. Don't miss them.